Okay, Mackenzie, this is problem number 12, and it states, which function's graph is not perpendicular to the line 4x minus y equals negative 2? And they give us four equations, and one of those is going to be the answer. It's not going to be perpendicular. So before we go any further, let's think of a couple things here first. We want to think of y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope of the line. We also want to remember, because it'll make things easier as we go along, that mx plus b equals y. These are exactly the same. As long as the signs are the same, the equation are equal to each other. Okay. So that being said, let's move on to the next thing. So in order for two lines to be perpendicular, we have to look at the slopes. Perpendicular lines have a particular relationship when it comes to their slopes. They are negative inverses of each other. So this is our m, this is our slope of this line, 2 over 3. So we know that any line that is perpendicular to this line, the slope must be, we flip it over, that's the inverse, and we take the opposite sign. So any line that is perpendicular to this will have negative 3 over 2 as a slope. We need to be careful sometimes because we have this, for example, y equals negative 2 over 3x plus 3. We have to take the slope, and I like to pull this off to the side sometimes just to make things nice and clear. So I'm pulling off to the side. I'm going to flip it and take the opposite sign. In this case, this is negative here, so it's going to be a positive. So looking at this line, the slope of any line that is perpendicular to it will have a slope of 3 over 2. Doesn't matter what the y-intercept is, okay? All right, so the first thing we need to do is, they didn't put this equation into a nice y equals mx plus b, also known as a point slope. So we're going to convert this, first we're going to convert this into the y equals mx plus b to get a nice clean slope. So we have 4x minus y equals negative 2. Now, remember in the beginning of this lesson that I said that y equals mx plus b is the same as mx plus b equals y. Now, why that's important is it's going to save us a step. We could go through and move this over here, and then we're going to have a negative y, then we got to change the signs of everything. In this case, what I'm going to do is, to make things easier, is simply add a y to this side and add a plus 2 to this side. Okay? Now what I'm left with is 4x plus 2 equals y. Okay? So it's kind of out of order, but what's our slope? Our slope is always that number that's in front of the x thing. So the x thing is going to be 4. So here, our m equals 4. And you may even want to put a 1 under there. You don't have to, but it kind of is a place saver and makes, when you flip it over for the perpendicular slope, it makes it very nice and clear. Okay. So I'm going to clean up that. What we have is y equals 4x plus 2. That's our equation. That's this equation up here. Okay. So we know that the slope of any line that is perpendicular to this equation is going to have a slope of negative 1 over 4. We flip it and take the opposite sign. It's positive, so it's now negative. Okay? So all we're going to look at on these equations is if they have a slope of negative 1 over 4. So what we have to do is we have to keep this, go through and change all these to y equals mx plus b. Now doing this one, we get a slope of negative 1 over 4. That's not the answer. Now let's do this one. Oops. Okay, so now we're going to do this one. We're going to keep this in mx plus b equals y form. So we have 1/2 x equals 10 minus 2y. We're going to minus 10 over here. So we're going to have minus 10 plus 1/2 x equals negative 2y. Okay, so now we want to find what y is, so we have to divide both sides by negative 2, or we can multiply both sides by negative 1/2. So we're going to do that. By both sides by negative 1/2. Okay, we want to turn this into 1. So we're going to multiply everything by negative 1/2. So negative 1/2 times negative 10, if you want to take it off this side, negative 1/2 times 10 times negative 10 is positive 10 over 2, which is 5. So we have 5. Now negative 1/2 times 1/2 is negative 1 over 4x. If you want to take it off to the side and do that, you can. I'm not going to at this point. Negative 1/2 times negative 2 is 1. So the equation here is y equals 5 minus 1 over 4x. If you want to clean it up, you can simply say y equals negative 1/4 over x plus 5. Okay, so our slopes here match, negative 1 over 4. So we know that this one can't work. Now we're going to try the third one. Remember, our goal is to change all these into y equals mx plus b form to find out if any of those slopes up here equals negative 1 over 4. But what do we see? J, of course there's no I again, is already in y equals mx plus b. So we see that y equals mx plus b is already has the slope of negative 1/4, which we need to have a perpendicular line. So we now can cross this out. So by process of elimination, we've discovered that h is the culprit, and that should be a 3 there. I hope that was clear enough. If not, you can watch it again and again. Thank you for your attention.